Okay, my friends, here it is. The Saturday morning live stream at the Garden Like a Viking headquarters, Zone 5/6, Northern Indiana. And we got a good one for you today. We got Gary Pilarchik from the Rusted Garden. He is backstage right now, just waiting to come on with you guys. We're going to give a minute for everybody to show up. And guys, despite what you saw in my last video, don't worry, everything is not totally dead. A lot of it recovered. And I got lots of comments about, hey, aren't you always preaching about it's better to wait a little bit too long than not enough? And yes, absolutely. I literally say that all the time, but I was pushing it this year. I was pushing it. I wanted to see the past 3 years the past 3 years, we've had really warm springs and it just warmed up and didn't get cool again. But not so much this year. So several things are suffering, but everything is going to be just fine. Okay. Because we planned for all of that. All right. So let us see who is here. Wayne Caroli is not worried, of course. Yes, thank you. Let's see here. Wayne Caroli, not worried. Yes, me too. Snow in the Upper Peninsula, says Northern Mine. Snow in the UP, love spring. Ready for the snow to be gone. I bet up there in the UP, big time. Let's see here. We got a couple people from the Gary's channel here. Says, I've never been here before. I wanted to welcome this person. Who is this? Oh, gosh. Okay, well, there's so many comments already. All right, guys, let us know where you're at, where you're viewing from, what you've got planted. Let us know what is going on. It's a little bit weird for me with these headphones on. You guys know that I don't typically do this into the microphone. But I just wanted to touch base with you guys before we bring Gary on here. And I wanted to say, hey, guys, if you want to get the Viking granular fertilizer, you can go to gardenlikeaviking.com. To all the people that have got it so far, thank you. And you're some of the lucky ones because I've been doing the math and all of that. And the price is definitely going to have to raise. Okay. But for the next probably 5 days or so, 3 or 5 days, we'll just keep it as it is. So if you're going to be getting some, go ahead and get it now so you can lock in the old price because it's definitely going up. There's no doubt about that. Because to ship to the West Coast is like $75. Okay. Shipping. Unbelievable. But anyways, guys, all right. Without further ado, we're going to bring Gary on here and we're going to see where the conversation goes. So make sure that you show him a warm Viking welcome. You want to have lots of questions for him and everything. And hello to everyone that is in Gary's tribe. Yes, welcome here as well. And here we go. What's up, Gary?
Hey, Nate, how are you? Thanks for
Pretty good. Yes, definitely. Thank you so much for agreeing to be on. So, Gary, a lot of my viewers are familiar with you, of course, but a lot of them might not be. So to them who are not, would you just introduce yourself? Let us know who you are, how'd you get into gardening, a little bit of the backstory.
Sure. So I've been on YouTube maybe 13 or 14 years, just started it as a hobby. Career was the mental health therapist, Johns Hopkins Hospital. In Maryland, Zone 7, I heard you're in, I think, Zone 5. So we have frost coming up, and you were talking a little bit about the frost coming in. Every year, Mother Nature fools me. I try and start stuff early. The freeze comes in, so it's a given. I got started in gardening probably second, third grade because of my grandfather. He would just go up, brown paper bag, tomato plants in there, some cucumber seeds, and it was a blue Maxwell House can back then that he called sweetener, which was just lime. And he would quickly put in the tomatoes, he would drop in cucumber seeds. That got me the bug, stayed with me my whole life, and probably, maybe for the last 20 years, I've been gardening just about every year, over 30 years combined. But, it's something that just, stuck with me. And that's part of what I want to do, like with my YouTube channel, is just expose people to gardening, try and keep it simple, don't spend any crazy money on crazy things, and just grow. And it's just a great group of people. Like gardeners, if they ruled the world, it'd be a great place.
Mm-hmm. I like that. Okay, guys, we're getting a lot of comments from people that Gary's got an echo, and I was afraid of this without the headphones in. So mine is, we had this issue with one of our guests, and so I got my headphones and everything I think is working here. So I don't think it's on my end, but everyone is saying that Gary's got a pretty good echo going on. So these are things that we don't know until we're actually doing it. So
Let's see if there's anything here in the settings.
yeah, I'm not sure how we get around that. Do you have, Shawnee Gross says, do you have YouTube open? Do you have anything that's playing our broadcast over the speakers
No.
in any way?
I'm shutting everything, but it's just StreamYard right now.
Okay.
Stuff is on
Mm-hmm.
echo cancellation. If you want to chat with your group for 5 minutes, I can try and switch to my Mac and get rid of it. I don't know how annoying it is for people. I don't hear the echo, but I can do that.
Yeah, I don't. Okay, everyone's saying it's good now. Okay, everyone's saying the echo's gone now. Okay, Carol says it's good now. Okay, thank you guys. Jay Brammer says it's better now. Okay. Okay, good.
So weird. Okay.
Yeah, so weird.
Well, I closed a couple windows on that listener suggestion, so maybe that worked.
Okay, cool. Well, guys, just let us know how the sound quality is, because that's what it's all about. We got to be able to communicate. So, all right, Gary. So, what is your main? If you had like a focus on your channel, what are you trying to tell to people? What's your message that you're trying to get across to everybody?
So good question. I think that you can grow is basically the message, that you can grow food, and it does not need to be complicated. I like to say, do a little bit of research and then just get in the garden and start going. And that's part of what I do with my channel is I have, very short videos just to get people the information and, see where it goes from there. But once people start, the anxiety goes away. They love it. They tend to expand, and, they catch the bug.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So trying to get as many people in as possible. What would you say from your experience with broadcasting this message is some of the barriers that keep people from wanting to grow?
The biggest barrier is, aside from the land and all that kind of stuff, is people are just overwhelmed. And we as YouTube, the internet, can make gardening a lot more complicated than it needs to be. So when new gardeners are coming on, they're reading a lot of stuff and they're, thinking they have to, water every 2 days, and then they have to do like more nitrogen in the beginning, more phosphorus later. And the bottom line is if you just open up a space, put in seeds, water, a little bit of fertilizer, those plants know how to grow. We don't need perfect soil. We don't need perfect raised beds. It can be a hole in the ground. And that's the biggest barrier, is getting people to say, I just got to dig and plant and I'm good to go. Mm-hmm. And then you get better every year. You up your game a little bit, you change up the soil, you improve. But to get started, you don't need to spend hundreds of dollars.
Very good message. I like that a lot. Okay, so sorry for this, guys. But they're saying Gary needs to turn down his speaker a little bit. It's hard to hear with the echo. I don't think you've got it coming through. So everyone's saying echoes again. Yeah.
So how about now? Is it any better?
I'm not sure. Okay, because I don't hear an echo. It's been my experience that the setup has to have headphones, but for whatever reason, I don't understand why that would be. But it's all this technology for guys who are about growing and gardening.
Well, I'm going to move the microphone away from the speaker, and it's on very low, so I can hear your question.
Okay. Oh. Well, yeah. That definitely. Okay. So if I'm coming through at all, then that's definitely what's causing the echo. Is that the mic's picking up the speaker? So, yes.
All right. Let's try it now.
Okay. Cool. Okay, so yes, that would be better. All right, so let us see here. Someone said here that said that Gary has it. Let me think right here. Okay, so thank you guys for hanging in with us. You know how we got to get this stuff all sorted out. So Bill Wilson says Gary has the best system for seed starting, and could you describe that a little bit?
Yeah, so I don't know well, you can't see it in the video, but right over my shoulder is my seed starting station. And it is just white LED lights from Walmart most recently. And in like the last 5 years, LED lights have become really inexpensive. And white light has all the colors of the rainbow. And they're like 40 bucks maybe, somewhere between 25 and 40. The price always changes. But they're just white LEDs, 10,000 lumens, which is brightness, 5,000 Kelvin, which is perfect for growing seed stock and growing your transplants. And again, it's one way to make things more affordable. Yes, the grow light systems with, red and yellow LEDs. They grow better. You can raise them higher. You can do more, but they're sometimes like at least 5 times as expensive. So the grow lights work perfectly. Just basic white LED shop lights. Hang them on a shelf, put your plants under it nice and close, and then you just raise them as the plants grow, and you'll get plenty of transplants, and you'll save yourself a ton of money.
Very nice. Yeah. And so I remember watching your videos way back in the day. I mean, you've been doing it, you said, how many years now on YouTube?
Like probably 14 years.
On 14 years on YouTube. And so I remember watching your videos way back in the day, long before I started even thinking about making my own channel. And one thing that I remember from yours is how you and I don't know if you're still this way but is how you understand and you emphasize the soil food web outside, but
Right.
inside you're not necessarily all about the biology and the organics. Is that right?
Yeah. So inside, the main strategy inside is to really have a sterile starting mix: peat moss, coco coir, vermiculite, perlite. You don't want to bring in any earth from outside, because you're bringing in dormant fungus and insect eggs, and they're just going to go crazy in your house. So I really try and promote, boiling water on your seed starting mix, which people then say, well, you're killing everything. And that's what you want. You want it dead. And then you can lightly feed them a water-soluble fertilizer of your choice. Your plants will do great. And then when you get outside, you get them into the great soil, the great, the microbiology, the whole web is the best way to go. When you buy seed starting mix, the peat-based stuff has fungus net eggs, which can last, I think, for years, sort of dormant. And when you put in just a little bit of water, moisten them up, put them in a nice house at 65 degrees F, 18.2 degrees Celsius, everything hatches. And the last thing you want is an infestation of fungus gnats,
Okay, so you're saying sterilize the medium then in the inside, and then as far as fertilization, then what would you do? Because there would be nothing in the soil, right?
There's nothing in the soil, so the seeds will live off the seed coat for the first, let's just say week. That's how they survive. And then I like to go with you can use, like, this is a place where the chemical fertilizers are good because they're inexpensive. They cover everything a plant needs, except they're crazily high. Like a 24, 12, 18 fertilizer will actually harm your plant. So cut it down in a percentage to get down to like a well below a 555 NP and K. Or use fish emulsion or organic. I like Agro Thrive. I'm affiliated with them. Whatever you want, but keep the NP and K well below that 555 number, and the plants will do okay. And just to add to that, because you have, like, I don't know if I have a cell here. Well, even this one, but when you're starting in the little cells that, the little starting cells, and they absorb the water and the fertilizer concentrates in there. So when you get high amounts of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, it can lead to symptoms of, like, sometimes yellowing leaves or veining or purpling. And then we think, hey, we didn't feed the plants enough, we give them more fertilizer, so we end up doing harm. So I like to always say low, slow amounts of fertilizer. This way, if your plant turns yellow, then you can just add a little bit more fertilizer. You can always add, but it's really hard to take away.
Yeah, and the seedlings the transplants aren't aggressively growing that much. So for something such as Grow More 20-20-20, something like that. Yeah, typically 1 teaspoon a gallon, 5 mils a gallon. What would you recommend then for the indoor usage? Would it be like a fifth, or like a?
Yeah, whatever. That would be a fifth.
If it's
like a 4.
So it'd be like 1.
Yeah, like something, bringing whatever you got to cut it down to have it. Even if you're getting close to like a 2-2-2, you just need a little bit of them of NP and K to be represented. If not, you end up over concentrating the fertilizers. And I've done experiments on it too. Like, I've done it by accident years ago, but then I've done experiments, and it causes a problem. That's why, like, the chemical fertilizer, organic is great. The chemical fertilizers aren't harmful to me, you, or the plants, unless you kind of abuse them. But that's what you have to be aware of, that there's such a high concentration, the plants just don't need that. Fertilizer itself, compost itself, is well below a 1-1-1 NP and K. I mean, it's just a low and slow feed of everything that plants need. So we don't have to jack up fertilizer all the time when we feed our plants.
And then, so what about when you go outside? Then it's no more synthetics.
So when I go outside, probably no more synthetics. Like a couple years ago, I had my pepper plants damaged by a frost. They got the chemical fertilizers because they were in stress, they were hurt. Give it to them. But from going forward, and especially in the last 5 years, I can make so much compost because I have the property. I just have lots of organic matter and compost in there. So I buy organic granular fertilizer on sale. Here in Maryland, we get winters. So these products go on sale every time at Home Depot. So I'll get like a $25 bag of Espoma, 27 pounds for like $5. So when I see that, I buy them up. So I use the organic granular, and I use AgriThrive, and I've used fish emulsion, and that takes care of everything I need, along with compost. And that keeps the soil going. I mean, if people are kind of concerned, is it organic, is it chemical, I mean, without getting too much on my soapbox, everything's a chemical. You just have to know how to use it sensibly. But if you just use organic granular fertilizer, or you use the chemical fertilizers on your garden, eventually the plants are going to suffer if you're not bringing in compost and organic matter. The bottom line is it's organic compost, organic matter. That's what the soil needs to thrive. The organic granulars, the chemical water solubles, those are all kind of like vitamins to give the plants a shot and get going, but you must have the compost in there.
Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely agree. I like that. So Beck says, thank you, Nate, for inviting Gary. Question: if I flip a strip of sod over, toss some high nitrogen over it, cover it for a month, would I be able to grow cucumbers and tomatoes in the bed this season? What's your opinion?
Let me just absorb that question. Yeah, I mean, I think that you could. I mean, what's going to happen is that top layer is probably not going to be the best for direct seeding, but you've taken away the grass, you've taken away the weeds, you've flipped it over, you've put nitrogen into there, which will help with breaking down that grass a little bit. But 30 days isn't enough for like a full, composting to happen. But once you dig in and you plant your transplants, and they're just going to go into whatever soil's there, that's going to act like a mulch, keep moisture in. So I think you would be successful. And this is a good question, because you and I were talking a little bit about this before we got started. You don't need perfect soil. You just need an open space. Plants will grow in clay. Like, I've done that before. I've done experiments with that. And I've just dug out a hole, put in some quality stuff, put in a transplant, and the root systems will get through that clay with no issue. And you get a harvest out of the plants. So slow and steady will build that soil in that space.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's pretty much exactly my thoughts as well. So we have done that actually several times. We've taken something like a broad fork, actually dug down and flipped over, a big piece of sod like that, flipped it over onto the one. And so we made like a trench in the middle that we then filled with horse manure. But on the sides where that flipped over, that actually turned into really good, like a little bit of raised mound, because the grass on grass, killed the grass, and it worked really well. So yes, Beck, I would say that you could, that you could do that, definitely, especially if you amend it with some nitro of some kind. Let's see here. The Crafty Gardener, says, question to Nate or Gary. I'm doing the double cup method, and the roots are coming out the bottom. Do I need to up pot and keep indoors because I still have cold nights outside?
So I have to say, from the question, I need to know what the double cup method is.
Right. I only vaguely have I think that it's where you have two solo cups. One of them has no holes. One of them has holes. And so you water by just pouring water in the bottom, I think, and setting the other cup back in. That's my understanding of it.
I mean, that's how I water my plants, in a flat and fill it with water and drop in the tray. So I don't know. I mean, sometimes long roots will come out. The problem is that when you go to pull that plant out, if it's growing through the holes into the water, a lot of those roots are going to get torn. So you want to pop the plant out and actually look at the root ball. And if it's coiling around and it looks like it's jammed, you probably do need to pot up. One of the things that I've learned over time is I used to grow my tomato transplants like 9, 10, 11 weeks. I wanted these big plants and they would have these like little tiny root balls, and the plants just didn't do as well as I wanted. Over time, I found a tomato, 6 or 8 weeks old, about this tall, tiny root ball, a little bit of green growth, being put right into the warm soil that it likes, grows and takes over the size and height of that plant that you might have been trying to nurse for 10 years, for 10 weeks or 11 weeks indoors. So it's really about timing. So to answer your question, if your plants are getting big root systems now, they should be close to be going out. So maybe next year you don't start as early because you don't want to have these plants that are delayed in getting outside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, perfect answer. Yeah, I would say the same thing. That if you're having to up pot indoors, you typically have started too early for the most part, in my opinion, which I actually definitely did this year. And I'm always preaching it's better to wait too long than not enough, and to be having these massive plants. But I thought I was going to be clever and get a jump on things because the past 3 years has been really warm. Like 3 weeks before our last frost date, our typical last frost date is when it was plenty warm. Not this year. It's not going to happen this year. So
what kind of happens too is when you take that transplant out that has all that big green growth,
hmm,
it has a small root ball, and you put it into this garden and it's been raining and you've been watering, it still has this little tiny root ball. So it can't access all the water around there. So this big green growth is now being fueled by the sun, and it's pulling the water out of that root ball so fast that the plant becomes stressed. So you really do want to match the height of the growth, size of the root system. And when that root system gets bigger, your greenery will catch up, So I actually, for the last year or two, I've been talking about really growing root systems versus the upper growth of your plants.
yeah, oh yeah, very good point. Yes, yep, definitely that they haven't developed the root width or the mass to support that kind of growth that it has, real top heavy growth. Yes. So let us see here. Let's see. Beautiful. Be About It Farms. Yes. Haven't used fertilizer in years. I rely solely on the microbial necromass and rock dust for remineralization. What are your thoughts on rock dust?
I missed that.
Oh, well, I'm just asking. What are your thoughts on rock dust?
If your soil doesn't have what rock dust offers, then definitely use it. I have clay soil, so a lot of what rock dust offers, I've got all kinds of stuff in my clay soil, so I don't need it. The other thing I say too is it's definitely not going to hurt, and it's probably better for containers because you don't necessarily have that when you're making your own container and potting mix. But if it's a good price, I would use it. I just try and caution people about spending big bucks on amendments that aren't needed. And rock dust usually isn't expensive, but if it ever caught on in the corporate world, all of a sudden rock dust would be 20 times more expensive with all this fancy labeling and miracle cures on it and stuff like that. So just beware of how much you spend.
Definitely. Yeah. I'm getting the sense that you're very practical, that the whole gardening thing is low barrier to entry, very practical, do with what you have, plant. That's the main thing, right?
Yep.
Yep.
And you're going to get stuff. Even if you fail 50%, you're going to still have 50% success. And you're going to be able to enjoy that.
So what is your thoughts on bagged soil?
Make your own. So I have tons of videos, and they're like the most popular on buying bagged soil. So you walk into Home Depot or Lowe's or Walmart or whatever, and you start with, on the left is usually topsoil for like $3 a bag, and then you have moisture control premium grow plants 2 times bigger potting mix down at the far end. It's like $18. They're all pretty much the same stuff. They're all peat based, and I understand some people don't want to use peat moss. You can use coco coir. However, both of them impact the environment. Coco coir, taking trees down to grow coconut plants, and it takes a lot of energy, and of course peat moss and bogs. But all the bagged products are usually peat based, and as you go from $2 or $3 down the line, it's just a greater addition of peat moss. So you can make your own. Number one, buy a bale of peat, do 50% peat, 50% of your earth, blend it together. That's a great base. And then you can add in compost and other stuff. The other problem with the bag soil is it's just filled with garbage shredded wood.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the big issue. So now you don't only have like topsoil on the left, super premium something potting mix on the right. In between, you've got all this wood filler in there, which if you've ever planted a garden, especially for new gardeners, and you buy this whatever, and you put it in your bed and you mix it in the top 4 inches, you put in your transplants, and they're about this big, May 1st, and then they're this big on June 1st. It's because the wood chips, or the wood shreds actually, are being broken down by microbes, and the microbes need the nitrogen to do that process. So they take the nitrogen from your plant. So you get stunted plants. And if you try to direct seed in that, you get a terrible outcome. A year or two later, when that wood decays and breaks down, it'll be great stuff. But you're basically I'm actually shooting a video today on that. You're actually harming your garden temporarily by doing that. The way to get around it, if you do it and you make a mistake, and this might be where I would use the chemical fertilizers, like that 20-20-20 you talked about, maybe not that high, but cut it to a 10-10-10. Soak that area in with that water soluble. Let it absorb into the wood. This way the microbes have what it needs to do its wood decaying job, and it can feed your plants. And that's the way to get around it. The other way to get around it, of course, is don't buy those products.
What are your thoughts on perlite? Do you use, because I typically like to make a mix out of peat moss, perlite, and worm castings for like raised beds when I'm doing, or bags?
I personally don't think it's needed for raised beds. Worm castings are expensive. So I use worm castings in raised beds in a targeted way. Like I will dig the planting hole, put in my compost, and then I would put in your half a cup of worm castings right into the planting area. Save yourself some money. You don't want to throw worm castings all over the place. It's just not needed. You also want to make sure you have worms coming in and you've got organic matter in your bed, and you will get your own castings that way. Perlite, I don't feel like it's needed in your garden beds, but definitely for making your container mix, perlite works really well. The worm castings work really well in containers. Container mixes and soil are kind of a different beast than what's actually in your earth beds. But I would use perlite more for that. When I make my mix, like I'll take 50% perlite, 50% peat, 50% earth, mix it together. I like to say if I then get a handful of perlite, which is really inexpensive, throw it in there, mix it up, I've all of a sudden created that $18 a bag topsoil that you can buy, or potting mix that you can buy, just by kind of putting that eye candy in there. So, good for containers.
Let's see here. Teats Treats, $5. Thank you very much, my friend. I appreciate the contribution. And it says, started my first compost tea Thursday. My ppm is at 570. Does that take out right? Does that sound right? For compost tea, there's no need to be testing ppm. In my opinion and experience. That's only if we are going to be using something as synthetic fertilizers, such as the 2020. So you can pretty much not worry about that, Teats, the ppm of your compost teas. Gary, do you check ppm of fertilizers and things like that? Do you use gauges for things?
I don't. I found as my garden got bigger, and more importantly, as I got older, I wanted to cut down the amount of work and chores that I do. So I am perplexed sometimes by the parts per million of fertilizers and what they are actually. So I just go by the instructions. But more importantly, I cut it down greatly, like I've been saying. Even like if you get the 24, 12, or 812 chemical fertilizers, when or if I use it in my garden, I still cut it down by half. Like you just don't need all that. But I don't do the measuring based on the principle that, again, compost is well below 111 NP and K, and the plant root systems are designed to kind of mind and find all that. So you just have to be kind of putting it on there in some shape, and tweaking it one way or another might make a difference, but I don't know how much for the extra work, in my opinion.
Yeah, Teets, to answer your question a little bit more, the ppm would really matter with the synthetic fertilizers because of how the salts would create an osmotic pressure pulling nutrients and soil out of the plants if the salt concentration got too high in the solution. So more so for like hydro and things like that. But if you've got a ppm meter, you can just not even turn it on for compost tea. So that's that. Yes, Sister G says ppm I use on hydroponics only. Yes. The Crafty Gardener says, question, can I use my compost if it still has small pieces of cardboard in it?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, the goal with compost is that it gets fully broken down so that when you mix it into your garden, your plants can just use it right away. And it's not continuing to break down and maybe the microbes are taking nitrogen from your garden. If you have small pieces of cardboard in there, that might tell me that it's not fully broken down. So rather than mix it through the soil, I would just put it on top of the soil, if you're doing transplants. And that will continue to break down, and rain and watering will send all the good stuff down to the roots. If it's not fully composted, mixing it into that top 4 or 8 inches could cause a problem. The other thing is if it's really small pieces of cardboard, you don't want to take them all out, but if it's bits and pieces that you can just remove it. But I use compost on top of the soil, and then my better stuff that I know that's 90%, 100% broken down gets incorporated into the earth, that top 8, 20 centimeters, 8 inches, 20 centimeters.
How are you incorporating it? Is that just by hand, or you got a small tiller of some kind? What kind of practice?
By hand. Okay. Like I don't, it's all by hand. I practice mostly at the end of fall, putting down fresh grass clippings, leaves. Under that will be my compost, and then grass clippings and leaves, and they just sit like that from end of November to really about now. I'm starting to open them up for different things. Those are more for my transplant beds. My direct seeding beds, I don't put all that stuff on there because you don't want to start a seed in like grass, dry grass and stuff. So either move it away and make sure you're starting right in the soil, or you can prep the bed a little bit differently for seed starting, for direct sowing.
What are some crops that you definitive always start indoors or do not start indoors?
So I always start indoors. Perennial flowers here for Maryland, oregano, thyme, chives. They just do really well. Rosemary, lavender. I start them early because they can take 10 or 12 weeks to really get ready. I will start tomatoes, peppers, eggplant, tomatillos, somewhere between 6 peppers. I don't mind growing for 10 or 12 weeks indoors. They tend to do better with some size. Leafy greens, brassicas, 4 to 6 weeks indoors. I will do that. Stuff I won't start indoors. There's no need to start like radishes indoors, carrots indoors. I was, used to be told you can't do beets, but I've started beets before just to get them to germinate. They do okay. What I am tending to do less now are cucumbers, zucchini, squash, all those crops. By the time you do the amount of work to grow them indoors, you don't want them to get really past 4 weeks indoors because they start to flower, they become bonsai plants. And yes, you can make them live and survive, but I just like to direct seed it. Go put the seeds directly in, and you're good to go. You don't want a cucumber zucchini plant with these massive flowers with this little root system. I've had people like yell at me when I've gone to like Home Depot and I'll show this squash plant with flowers, and I'm like, don't buy this. It's not going to live. And people say, you can make it live, you can make it survive. Yes, you can, but it's going to produce so much more poorly than if you just drop the seed in that day and let it do its thing.
Absolutely. Yes. I've been saying the exact same thing for several years. And that the people will take it. Yeah, it will produce. And people are like, well, I do it that way and they're fine. But their definition of fine might be just like a kind of a small little, like you said, bonsai plant, with a little bit of fruit.
It really does. And you want, like, it's the same thing with watering. Like you'll read everywhere, water once a week with a deep watering or something. And you can do that. And your garden your plants are going to survive and produce because that's what they do. But we want our gardens to thrive above and beyond what they would do if they're just living in nature. So getting them the right root system into the right warmth of soil, using the right, I don't want to say right compost, but using compost, and watering more than you think creates a thriving garden, and you just get better production. Like you can have 6 zucchini plants, and if they're not taken care of, they're not going to produce as well as 2 or 3 that you really take care of and do a good job. So now you've got these 6 plants that are havens for insects and bugs because you got to be all over the place. They're not doing as well versus just focusing on a couple of plants.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I have the same philosophy, and I tell people too, it's best to focus your energies and your efforts on fewer but much healthier plants that are
Yeah,
producing and defending themselves instead of trying to spread it so thin. So the let's see here. The dad Dan, thank you very much, my friend. $10 says you two are so chill. Yes, well, you get a couple gardeners together, just having a good conversation.
sure.
Definitely. So let's see here. I was looking for a question, but I've lost it already. So you'll have to ask it again. Um, so the so Gary, then I sense that you're like you don't have any hard or fast rules. So really, I mean that there's no like definitive. Some people are like only no till. Some people are like I till all the time. And I do row cropping. What's your philosophy with that? I mean,
So that's getting back to the original question, like what do I try and teach? I try not to put my way of gardening as the only way to garden. I try and just put the facts out there. So let's go to a no dig garden. And there are myths and truths and good stuff about it and stuff you don't need to worry about. So, for instance, I have clay soil. First year here, if I did a no dig, it would take me a long time to get that soil up to what it needs. So, for the first 2 or 3 years, I'm taking a shovel and I'm turning it and I'm adding amendments and I'm breaking it up. Now, 5, 6 years in, I do less turning, but that's just turning. There's a difference between putting a shovel in and turning it, or putting a broad fork in and lifting it, than getting a machine that pulverizes 8 inches deep, 12 inches deep, and shreds everything. Like no dig garden to me, or a shovel turn garden, or a broad fork garden, it's okay to do that. You just don't need to be pulverizing your soil every year with the tiller. And that's some of the confusion that people have between dig and no dig. Like they think if you put in a shovel and you turn it, you're digging it. Microbes know what to do, and they know how to repopulate at an incredible rate. In like 24 hours, you can go from several thousand to billions. So they can fix the soil. But when you get your soil to a place where you can just throw compost on it, move the soil aside, put your transplant in, that's a good place to be. But as a new gardener, you don't have to be perfect with dig or no dig kind of ideology. And it saves you work. Like that's the biggest thing. After 4 or 5 years, just throwing compost on my soil, I don't have to be digging or turning it if I don't want to.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're speaking my language big time. I'm all about the hybrid approach as well. So many people, especially in the YouTube space, want to make it like a religious doctrine, like you can never do till, and even with a fork is tilling your soil,
Yeah.
no trowel or anything. But the hybrid approach, I say the same. And so to people that are just starting out with like some less than ideal soil, some clay soil or something like that, what would be the first 3 seasons? What would you recommend if you've got like Indiana clay pottery wheel soil?
Yeah. So mine's not quite pottery wheel soil. So the first thing I do is look locally at landscape companies that make garden soil or compost. And you gotta kind of inspect it. Sometimes that has a lot of wood in it, but that's still going to be valuable to kind of blend into this heavy clay soil. And it's the cheapest way to go. So if you're starting a big project, the most expensive way you can go is buying bagged soil, which isn't good anyway. And the soil you get from the landscaping company is not going to be any worse than that, but it's much cheaper. So on, like, if it's just that red clay, I would put several inches of local garden soil. I'd break a bag of peat moss onto that. I'd throw in heavy handfuls of organic granular fertilizer, which we can talk about that in a second, because some of them are really expensive, like Dr. Earth's. It's crazy out there. Um, And if you have compost, of course, lots of compost, and just I might even till it with a machine at that point just to chop it up, but definitely with a shovel, turn it over, break it up. Next year, maybe you do something similar. By the third year, that 8-12 inches, that top 20, 30 centimeters should be broken up nicely that you can grow just about anything in it. But don't try and have, in my opinion, I mean, you can if you want, but perfect soil month one. I still don't have perfect soil, but it's just adding and adding compost over time.
And so in those first couple of years, you would not be shy with the broad fork or even tilling,
No.
an initial
Yeah, I
to
mean,
get that stuff in there.
yeah, I mean, like I have a tiller. I tilled up my grass when I put in a perennial flower bed. I haven't used it since then. It was a huge waste of money. But I would definitely take a shovel and just flip it over, get that landscaping company soil down at the bottom, but you're just putting air in there. You're breaking up the clay, you're getting the peat moss mixed in, and just let it kind of do its thing. But if you have to, I mean, some people have like rocky soil and you can't turn it. Like you have to process it somewhere. But at least my view would be in that first year to 3 years, you're establishing the beds and the garden. You can switch over to whatever style you want after that, but you may have to put a lot of work in to just get the beds going in the right condition. And then microbes and soil life and mycorrhizae and fungi will all move in and do its thing. I mean, it's there anyway, but it'll move in and colonize just fine.
What are your thoughts or experience with the thing that is really popular right now, like the market gardening type, where they put down cardboard and then bring in a dump truck load of compost and then wood chips in the pathways? What are your thoughts on that as far as beginning a garden in that way?
Yeah, I mean, I've done that. It can be a good way to get started. There's some controversy now, and I don't know where you fall on it, but some people say, don't use cardboard, do use cardboard. I still don't understand why you wouldn't use cardboard. Cardboard gets wet, it breaks down, it goes away, it becomes organic matter. So it's just a nice way to cover up, weedy grass, or especially if you have wire grass. You can put in 3 layers, like really thick, and then you're basically just putting good soil on there. So if you put good soil on anything, you can grow, because the roots really need a good 6 or 8 inches for the shallow roots, and then the bigger roots will go right through that cardboard into the earth, and then you're set up and you're good to go pretty quickly. It's just if you bring in a dump drop of soil, it's got to not be filled with shredded hardwood, or it's gonna suffer. Your plants are going to suffer in it.
Yes, definitely. I see that a lot with people, especially if they start their garden like that and they get that compost that's made commercially, and then by the next season, they've just got like a half of an inch of compost, on top of rock solid clay. They didn't really do anything to amend the soil, or to work anything in there.
And that would be like that to me would be, and probably to kind of build on that first year you do that to get it set up, and you can grow. And then the next year, and in this case, it really shrunk, they had some good quality compost. That's when I would probably want to turn it with a shovel and incorporate that into there, loosen it up. The weeds are gone, and then maybe you bring in more compost. But it can be expensive. Like when you see the no-dig gardens, and all they're saying is basically what you described. You got an earth layer, you put down 6 inches of new compost, you grow in it. And part of my channel is all my videos could be just use compost. And then the video is over. Not everybody can use compost or can make compost. They don't have the room for it. They can't make enough. So that's why I don't like to preach. Like, use compost when you can, make it when you can. But it is very pocket expensive to put down 6 or 8 inches of compost all over your beds if you're not making it yourself. And then most people, I'm lucky enough to transition from my career job to my new career job is, doing gardening stuff and doing YouTube. But most of us, and then my kids are growing up, so that's good too. But most of us are working, we're raising kids, we've got sometimes multiple jobs, and we're trying to garden either for fun, for a hobby, to supplement, combination of both. It is really hard to make all that compost.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Definitely. The Be About It farm says forever chemicals are used to make cardboard, they say now. I saw a couple comments about the
Yeah.
PFAS and the forever chemicals. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So I don't disagree with that. What I disagree with is people just throwing out, not this person for sure,
No, of
but
course.
when people say forever chemicals, like in this day and age, it's not difficult for us to get the real information about what is in cardboard, versus these vague statements. And that might be true. I kind of compare that to, let me think, I just lost a thought.
Hmm.
Oh, when people were saying don't use chemical fertilizers, they harm the plant, they harm you. And then you see these experiments where they use the chemical fertilizers and the nutrients in the fruit was less than nutrients from, a composted garden. But what they don't tell you is how the experiment was done. Like, I want to know, how do you use all this stuff? Because if I'm never going to just feed my plants chemical fertilizers, it must have compost, like I said. So and so I'm like, well, where's the real science behind it? Like, I just want to read that, basically. So for the forever chemicals, what are the forever chemicals in there, and what companies are using it? Where's the cardboard coming from? But if you believe that the chemicals are there and you don't want to use them, skip it. You can go to newspaper. But then I've heard things about the blank ink on newspaper. You can use alternatives. You could, pretty much use like what you want. I mean, you could put layers of leaves down or layers of cut grass down it's green. That's going to heat up and it's going to kill stuff too. And then you put stuff on top of that. But I just personally like the facts. Like, I research what chemical sprays are, what chemical fertilizers are, what the organic sprays are. Just because it's organic doesn't mean I want to ingest it, as a spray. I mean, copper is safe as an organic spray. I don't necessarily want that to be blowing into my eyes, but I like to just learn I see them as tools, like what each tool is. Do I want to use it? Do I not want to use it? And if somebody says don't, I'd like to, just see more information.
Yeah, that's about the most reasonable response that I could imagine. I mean, it's like, okay, well, that's acceptable, but let's research more. I want to know more about it and why they say this. And they say,
Yeah.
oh, well, there was a study, but most people in this day and age now, they just regurgitate what they saw or what they read. Well, there's forever chemicals. Well, what does that really mean? And,
Yeah, I don't know. Oh, so here's the example I was trying to think of. Pressure treated wood 30 years ago was arsenic, or something like that. And when you go to the big box stores, they would not cut it for you because you would get the arsenic dust in the air and you breathe it in and it's bad for you. So then they switched over to copper, and it's not, a copper that we would want to ingest, but, part of what we take into our bodies is copper. So you have copper pressure treated wood, and I build frame beds out of it. And people always, not always, but a handful of people say, you're poisoning yourself. You're ridiculous. You're saying you're an organic gardener. Why are you using chemically treated wood? Here's why. I'll explain it in a second. They say it leaches, and there's truth to that. So a board like this is going to leach out some copper, maybe like this. After researching for a long time and reading about it from just different places, I mean, obviously wasn't prepared to pull it up, or maybe I could link you to it. In order for the copper to come out of that wood, get to a level that would harm you and I, the plant would be well dead before we ever got to it. So yes, there's truth in that, but the leaching of the perceived toxicity of the copper would kill that plant out well before you and I could ever eat it. So that's the kind of stuff I look for. So pressure treated wood on a budget can last a good 8 to 12 years. Non-treated wood in my area is going to last maybe 3 to 5 years. Alternative, metal raised beds. I like them more and more, every year, because they became cheaper over the last couple of years.
Yeah,
but that's just my opinion. Like, I totally appreciate if somebody doesn't want to use copper treated or pressure treated wood in their garden. I'm just saying, the fear is not as great as it's made out to be.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I made a short on Instagram about the way that I'm planting the onions, and it got 8.5 million views, and there was hundreds of comments. Who wants to tell this idiot he's using pressure treated wood? He's poisoning himself and his family. And I'm just, and even though I wasn't using pressure treated wood, but it was just regular, but still there was that comment so many times from
Yeah.
people. And one thing that I say is, okay, well, even if, because people, I get a lot of comments because I use black landscaping fabric. It keeps the weeds down. I mean, it's zero weeding. You just plant through the fabric. You know, I use it a lot, and you get that whole, you know, microplastics in the soil and stuff, which I get. I understand that completely. But at the same time, with the same mentality that you're having, you kind of say, okay, but by what mechanism will the plant draw up the microplastics? I mean, it's just because something's present in the soil doesn't mean that it's going to get absorbed into the plant immediately and become toxic to your body.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I don't use the plastic stuff only because then it pops through my mulch. Like I tried it when I first started, and then it bugs me that I see the landscape fabric sticking up. Then I try and pull it, and then more comes up. So I go with the cardboard. I guess I go more with the forever chemicals versus the microplastic.
Right. Well, I never, to be clear, guys, though, I never put anything on top of landscaping fabric. That's the top layer, because if you put stuff on top, things will grow through it. Yeah. In my experience.
Well, definitely. And that's the other thing too, which you just clarified, is roots will go down right through that. So you just create a new layer of weeds on top of that.
Yep. So, and difficult to remove.
Yeah. So you just put it down and it keeps stuff dead.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. My mistake is I put wood chips on top of it.
Oh, yeah. Okay, the dad Dan, and thank you for the $5, my friend, says, okay to use my mixed sawdust, ? Well, we saw pine, oak, poplar, cedar, anything. He's asking about using mixed wood sawdust. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that it's good. It has to be fully composted down because it's mostly, well, it's probably more kind of the carbon, you know, but I have a video where I take wood pellets, all natural hardwood pellets, no binders, no chemicals in them, and alfalfa pellets. And I hydrate both of them. And then I put them in a tumbler. It heats up really nicely, and I can have compost in, I forget what it was, but let's just say in 30 days, pretty quickly. So you could use sawdust mixed in with your green grass cuttings and just let it decay and break down. I wouldn't use it directly in the garden at this point, because it's going to challenge the plants for a bit for nitrogen. You could use it at the end of the year, I guess, if it doesn't blow away, as, you know, something on the surface, like a mulch on the surface. Just don't incorporate it into that top 4-6 inches of your soil. Now, you know, let it decay or keep it on the surface.
Okay, so I just heard you say something very interesting. You're talking about, can you elaborate a bit on that composting method? You're using the hardwood chips and alfalfa pellets.
Yeah, so it's called, I don't know, I do a lot with alfalfa pellets. Alfalfa pellets from feed stores, 40-pound bag, might be a 50-pound bag. Used to be $14.99, maybe it's $20 now. It's a great organic fertilizer, you know. And then the first thing you get, you know, getting back to what we say, people start yelling, it's got grays on, it's been sprayed, there's chemicals, there's poison. It could be true. What I say is if you're getting hay or straw from a farm, you have to go and talk to the people and find out what's going on, you know. You can buy organic alfalfa. So you buy the organic alfalfa. I use that at the end of the season, sprinkle it liberally across the top of my beds as an organic granular fertilizer. It's like a 2-1-1, plus it's got a chemical in there that helps, a hormone that helps stimulate root growth. Not a miracle, nothing crazy, but inexpensive. I mean, a 40-pound bag for $20 goes a long way. So I also use that in a compost tumbler, and I just fill a 5-gallon bucket, totally hydrate the alfalfa, and then the wood-burning stove pellets, same thing in a 5-gallon bucket, 50-50, so it's equal parts, whatever you're using. And one is a carbon, the wood is a carbon, the alfalfa is a green, you know, nitrogen. Put it into the tumbler, it heats up nicely, and you get some beautiful compost. If you actually look up alfalfa pellets, you can find that video, and it's really, really interesting. But it's a great way to make stuff. Now, cost-wise, it's like $6.99 for a 40-pound bag of pellets and like $20 for the alfalfa. I don't know if that comes out to be a great deal or not, but it's a great way to bring in products into your tumbler to turn into compost. Because one complaint people tell me a lot is they don't have enough materials where they live, and the compost tumbler is just sitting, not heating up and stuff like that, which is because you don't have that ratio of carbons to nitrogen. And I'm jacking it up. Like, it's going to smell. It's like, a 50 green and a 50 brown is way too much green, but it just accelerates the process, and you just got to keep it tumbled for it to break down.
Wow, I'm going to experiment with that this year
Give it
because
a try.
I get that question a lot. Well, I don't have enough material. How can I make some good quality, some good compost like that for the aerated compost teas?
Right.
And so that would be a fast way to do it. Wow.
Yeah.
And so you compost mostly in tumblers. Is that what I'm hearing?
No. I just have 2 tumblers that I got at the beginning of the year, really for video, and then for creating compost if I had just a container garden and I didn't have a lot of space, so it was for video. But my compost, I just get 4-foot by 4-foot pens. I throw in my leaves in one, all the other stuff in another. I've got some pallets from, I don't know, Girl Scout cookies shaped into like 3 bays, and I do some hot composting. I call it worm composting because I never stay up on it, but compost that way too. And, I'm at a place I have 2 acres, so I have enough space to make lots of compost.
So that's your main system then. You got like a 3-bin or multi-bin system, and are you turning it often? Do you got a front loader, or do you do it by hand, or do you mostly just like let the worms do it?
It's mostly nature taking its course. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 big pens. So now after these years, I can go to 1 pen and the leaf compost is really done. I've got 3 pallet bays where I just fill with leaves too, and they go from like way up here to down here, but it's great stuff. And then the turning, like I got grass to cut now looking out my window. I will kind of reheat the browns that kind of lasted over the winter and get that warmed up, and then I just move it to a pile. I tarp it and I let it sit. I'm not turning it every week or twice a week or anything like that. I've done that. It's just a lot of work and I don't have time for it. But again, I'm lucky enough to have the space that I've got all this stuff going. And it's the thing about compost and now I recommend when you're going to start your first garden, if you have the space, build that 4-foot by 4-foot compost pen first. Get that going right away, because hopefully we're alive for the next, 20, 30 years. That's going to turn into great stuff. We tend to start the garden, but we never get to composting.
Which is vitally important, definitely. Okay, so we've got Look to Nature Homestead, $5. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate you being here. It says, Gary, you've spoken well of the hardy kiwi. Can you give any advice going forward with my 2 vines that are going in the ground soon?
Sure. So the hardy kiwi, I've been on this property. This is my 6th gardening year here on this property. Prior to that, for like 7 or 8 years, I had 2 hardy kiwis growing, and you need a male and you need a female. So hopefully whoever you bought it from did that for you. Never produced. Finally, when I moved here, 2 years in, it started producing. And it's these little tiny kiwis, actually like kiwi berries. They're the most amazing flavor ever, So I thought I was going to get a big fat, kiwi, but it wasn't. But anyway, it's little berries. What I found most important was, and it went right into clay soil. I didn't do any special amending, maybe the hole a little bit, is I would go and I would throw a 10-10-10. This was a chemical fertilizer on there because I wanted more phosphorus and potassium. You could use whatever you want, but it's the increase of the potassium and phosphorus that I think helped this vine take off. And now that it's established and it's in the soil, it's amazing. I mean, it works really well. It's going to grow crazy and unruly, and I just shape it to keep it from whacking me in the face when I'm cutting the grass. I don't do any hard pruning or anything like that. And it grows really well. But I found the addition of phosphorus and potassium seemed to help it flower and bloom more.
Very nice. Okay. So, what about, do you keep it mulched? Do you water it especially? Do you give it any special attention? Is there anything
No,
in
no.
particular?
When you're putting in the vines now, and I was speaking more of an established plant, so you're going to want to water it once a week for sure, and make sure that it doesn't dry out and gets established. I would water it in with a water soluble fertilizer now. Just give it what it needs, until the root system starts spreading out. But I don't mulch the area. Like I might throw grass clippings in there every once in a while, but it's just really just dry clay around the top, and the kiwis going right into the ground. You know,
Wow.
we
Wow.
get so in Maryland though we get more rain. So if you're in an area that you're not getting rain for 15, 20 days, you may have to water it. But once they're established, they're pretty hardy. Yeah.
Mm, nice. Okay, I hope that answers it. Look to nature. Let me know if you have anything else about that. The prodigal gardener asks, food for thought. I can get a bale of alfalfa from my local feed store. Would that be better than using the pellets? I assume they're talking about for fertilization or the composting.
Right. So that's another thing people yell at me about is alfalfa's been sprayed. So you just want to make sure you trust, the people you're getting it from. So the alfalfa pellets are shredded. So the more something's shredded, the more surface area it has. So the quicker it breaks down. So the alfalfa feed probably will take longer to break down because it's got less surface area than shredded. So I don't think it would be better than pellets. I think pellets are better, but it could be used as an alternative if you can't get that. It's just going to take longer to break down.
Yeah, definitely. That's my thoughts as well. It's going to take longer to break down. The other stuff is very, very. It turns into a mush after you use it, so it will spread out a lot faster if you're going to use it for fertilization. Like I know, I recommend often to people to use that in their potatoes because it's cheap and they can plant it right in the rows with the potatoes.
Right.
Can be very good. And my thought, because I made a video about what I'm using in my pathways now, which is straw, big straw leaves, flakes, from the bale, because straw here is really cheap. And
Right.
so it's real good. It makes a nice, soft, fluffy place to walk, and it sort of breaks down in my aisleways. And so the plants can, the roots grow out of the bed into the aisleways a bit. And everyone really, really, I'm glad that everyone's aware of the chemicals that are being used, the broadleaf herbicides and things. But one thing is that it's really a lot more relevant when we start talking manures because it's concentrated. So like just because one time 10 months ago the farmer sprayed a broadleaf herbicide on this straw doesn't mean that it's forever going to be a weed killer, because otherwise they would never have to
Right.
spray again. And they have to spray often. They have to spray these broadleaf herbicides often. So in the concentrate, just having the alfalfa or the straw that has at one point in its life been sprayed does not translate to being like a weed killer for your garden,
Right.
because obviously the farmer would never have to respray again, but they do all the time because it's not that persistent. It's when it passes through the digestion of the animal that it becomes concentrated for us.
Yeah. And that's part of trying to find out the facts about all these things, because there's always truth to it.
Mm.
And it gets down to the point where you have people kind of way out there that everything has to be organic or you're wrecking your life. I throw into that, I go to a gas pump, I'm breathing in fumes. I'm on a highway, I'm breathing in fumes. The planes are flying over me. We have well water, which isn't treated like city water, so that's maybe a little bit better. But there's always going to be something. I drink milk out of a plastic container. There's just stuff that's going on. So you want to be, I think, be your own person, be your own gardener, but be as safe as you can with your food supply, to the point that it's not costing you $1 billion or you're not having fun anymore. Like you have to find the balance to grow food. One thing, people, and I'm lucky where I am in my life with what I have. I'm grateful. Some people are gardening to supplement food. And it's real easy for me to say, just go buy this or spend money on this or don't do that. And before you know it, the cost outweighs that head of lettuce they're trying to grow, or those tomato plants they're trying to grow. So we're all growing for different reasons. I have a big issue with bonnie plants. You know, talking to you a little bit about that before.
Yeah, what's that
Not
about?
because they're poor quality plants. And an issue with Home Depot and Lowe's selling to gardeners where did I put that cup? I don't know. It's a little bit. This plant was meant to die. It was a not watering experiment. So they sell in a little, plastic cup, a single lettuce plant for $4.99 at Home Depot. Or you see this 50 radishes packed into a little container for $4.99. Or you see one broccoli plant for $5. Think about it. I want to go shopping and I'm going to get 5 lettuce plants, a couple broccoli plants. All of a sudden it's $90. Don't do that to people. I don't want to come across sounding like smart. Just don't buy those plants. Buy a 6-pack. A 6-pack of lettuce that's $6 even, $1 a plant. Okay, that's pretty good. You can go to Costco. You can get 5 heads of romaine for $4.99. So Home Depot, Lowe's, all these places, they partner with Bonnie. They put out the local, nurseries and all the people that are trying to grow locally. And they sell you plants that aren't, what's the right word? They're not bad plants. They're just priced wrong. Now, they become bad plants about 2 weeks later when they've been neglected and they don't have water and the root systems are damaged. So if you're not buying the Bonnie plant, if you want to buy them, okay. If you're not getting them right when they're off the truck within 3 or 4 days, you're going to end up with these stressed plants that when you put them in the ground, your lettuce is just going to bolt. Your celery's, your cilantro is just going to bolt. Your basil, we spend $5-6 for a basil plant. It just grows flowers, and it's because these plants are stressed or they've been growing too long. So you're really better off learning what seeds to buy. Buy a $2 pack of lettuce seeds that'll last you 3 or 4 years. Start them indoors. Start them directly in the ground, and you'll save yourself a lot of money. So my issue really is the cost, and then kind of taking advantage of new gardeners that don't know better at this point. And then Home Depot and Lowe's like it because they just make a big profit out of it. So anyway, that's my short version of my soapbox.
Yeah, no, not a problem at all. I mean, I totally get that. And they definitely put out the smaller people, the local nurseries that are trying to do places, because people just go there and get the plants. But very much so, like Gary said, if you don't get it when they come fresh off the truck, those employees are not growers. They're not caring. They're not giving those plants the love. You can see just the baking hot root zones. They get bone dry, and then someone will remember to water them. And so they're really stressed, root damaged, root bound plants by the time you get them anyways. And here they're more than $5. They're like 6 and 7 and some of them 8. And some of those tomato plants are $15 for in like a 3-gallon pot.
Yeah.
It's totally unbelievable.
Well, that's right. That's the other thing. Like I was talking about, you grow your tomato transplant this tall and has a little root system. Well, you get this little pot and you spend $15-$20 for a tomato plant that has tomatoes on it, and you take it home and you go out to dinner and it's hot, you come back the next day, that container is dried out. The plant is now stressed. That tomato is probably going to get blossom end rot because you've messed up the water system and the transporting the calcium. So again, it's a bad product. It shouldn't be sold, but it gets $15 or $20 from people, and people are like, beautiful tomatoes, right off the truck, let me buy it. But one day, and this goes true for your containers, if you let your containers dry out just once, it really damages the plant. So people always ask me, what size container do I need? It's better to be in a bigger container and fewer plants because it's more forgiving with watering. And you have to be thinking late June, July, when the plants are bigger and you've got the full summer, can you keep that container filled with moisture?
Very important. Definitely. I see people growing things like indeterminate tomatoes in these little, even in my opinion, even a 5-gallon bucket is not nearly enough size for a proper indeterminate tomato. Right. They want to really spread out and stuff. And so they'll dry that thing out. It's like a wick. They just dry that thing out fast. Yeah.
So my first video I did, or first couple, was growing in 5-gallon buckets. And I was able to grow those tomatoes, but they indeterminates, but they weren't as big. Same issues that you said. Now I recommend really a 20-gallon grow bag or container for an indeterminate tomato. Like you really want
Yes.
that size in there.
Yep. That's why I say 30-gallon even. Yep.
Okay.
Definitely grow bag. Yep. For sure. We got a question here. PA Fish Preacher says, Gary, I know you have blueberry plants. The deer have been eating mine this winter. Do you think they will bounce back?
I do think they will bounce back. You're going to have to protect them because I think once deer sometimes know they've got treats along their walk line, they come back to it. I would hit them now, and this isn't a case where you would need to use the chemical fertilizers, but in my discussion, this is where I would hit them with a high nitrogen fertilizer, give them everything they need. You could use organic, but get them nitrogen now. Let them, have maybe a little bit more than they need so that they get growing, but they will definitely come back. They're just going to need to be protected going down the line.
There is so I have I have no experience with blueberries as of yet, but we've got a blueberry experiment happening at the North Plot, the Viking North Plot, where I want to do one row. There's going to be 5 plants that is just Indiana clay soil that I've tilled up,
Right.
Because we got a tiller as well, and then another section is going to be well amended with the proper stuff as far as peat moss and some nutrients and things like this. And I
Right.
want to show distinctly the difference between them. And the one will be pH'd. I've got a pH meter and stuff like that. So what are your thoughts on that? What are some special things in your experience that blueberries like or don't like?
So I found that, again, I was just doing the planting hole with some of the amendments you're talking about into clay, dropping the plant in, it's mulched, watered it in with the water soluble to get started. They've been established. So the interesting thing about blueberries is they have a lot more shallow roots than we think, and they don't spread out as much. So it's that top 6 or 8 inches that you really want it to have some acidity to it, because the lower pH helps those plants pull the nutrients in. That's why you have your pH meter, I mentioned. What I did find is the range that blueberries grow for pH is much higher than we're told. So my soil generally stays, because it's clay, is like 6.87. So I hit my blueberries with some elemental sulfur. So some sulfur to kind of acidify it. I just did a video on it. Just shake it down around it, usually in the fall, sometimes the fall and spring. Like I don't have a set way. And then with a acidic water soluble, usually in the fall, in the spring, sometimes both. So maybe say 2 to 4 times, it gets a light, kind of feeding of sulfur. The plants do wonderfully well. Maybe mid-season, if I'm walking around and I got my bag of organic granular, I'll toss it around the base, scattered well, and I just let them go. I mean, I don't prune them really. This is the first year I prune them because I just like the chaos. So I'm removing 3rd-year wood out of there. I think you'll find that once they're established, I don't know if you'll see much difference between both of them. If one's got a different pH and one's being fed more, I think you will. But I think these plants are going to establish this year. The roots are going to do their thing, and I don't know if there'll be much difference.
Wow, that's very interesting. That's why. Okay, good. I'm so glad we're doing this experiment, and that I hear you say that as well, because I have a lot of people, when I mentioned that in the previous video, a lot of people, don't even waste your time with the other ones. You won't get any growth whatsoever. You won't get any blueberries unless their specific pH range.
Right.
But you're saying your personal experience is different than that.
Yeah. Now your soil might be maybe really skewed to like really alkaline, so I don't know. But
It's not. It's 6, 8, 7.
Yeah. I think it'll be okay. Now, again, I do, I think when I first did it, they got a quick drink of mere acid, use any acidic fertilizer. But I wasn't testing it. Like it's fleeting. So you're just soaking in the sulfur, elemental sulfur will rain into the top couple of inches. The water soluble will be there, and it just helps them uptake the nutrients. And then it goes back, pH always kind of balances back out anyway. So I didn't really try and take it down to a 5, 8 and keep it there forever. I mean, it probably just goes up and down. And,
Hmm.
you know, by whatever I'm doing, I give it enough acidity, helps with the nutrient intake, things are fine.
Very nice. Okay. Okay, cool. Is there any special things as far as mounded? Should I mound the soil a little bit in this, or do they like really moist, constant moisture, or what is their preference in that?
No,
Do you
I
know?
mean, mine's not mounded. And, you know, they were, you know, the original plants, when I moved, I just dug them out in the winter, shoved them where I thought my garden was going to be. And they sat there frozen cold, nothing going on, you know, and those are some of the best plants I've ever had. You know, because they're new plants, again, they don't have the root system. So I would water, you know, for a good, at least, you know, 4 to 8 weeks regularly until the root system's set up. But after that, I wasn't watering them any extra, even on drought times and stuff like that.
Hmm.
But again, in
Mhm.
Maryland, we get a lot of rain. So April, May, June, there's a lot of water, and that's not so much an issue for me.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that's part of the subtleties of knowing your own garden space. Is like each garden, you know, like zones don't really cut it. Like Tennessee Zone 7, it's not the same as Maryland Zone 7. But knowing your kind of microclimate or your own unique garden of the amount of rain, is it on a slope, the night temperatures, the changes really makes a difference. Lost your voice. Yeah, I can't hear you. I don't know if others can. Yeah, nothing changed on my end. Odd. No. That is odd. I mean, I don't know if you can hear me, but if you want to wrap up and just put the questions up, I can read them and answer them that way, and you can work on what's going on. And kind of just take it from there. These things happen. So I've got two 12-year-old blueberry bushes. I just put them in the ground and keep them mulched. Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's actually what you're doing. Like, I just found that blueberries are just much better. Um, they're easier to grow than what people have told us. So, a couple of things when you're growing blueberries, do you have early, mid, and late blooming blueberries? And you have low bush blueberries that are shorter to the ground and taller blueberries. You want to have at least two varieties of blueberries so that they cross pollinate, and that does help with kind of plumper blueberries. But you want to make sure that if you're getting a couple different varieties, you're either getting low or you're either getting early blooming blueberries or mid-season blueberries so that they have time, the flowers open, and they will cross pollinate each other. But you definitely want two different varieties. And I would give blueberries a try. And they do really well in containers too.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
You
Your
can?
voice just came back. Yeah.
Okay. All right, cool.
All right. You're back.
All right. Hey, thank you very much for taking over like that. What a pro.
So, yeah, glad to help. So weird.
Yeah. Yeah, super weird, but technology, man. I don't know what the deal is with it, but hopefully it will last because we're almost over. We just
Okay.
want to get a few more questions. We have Big Will Dog's question here.
Okay.
So he's got limited in-ground beds, and planting garlic in pots are hit or miss. Can he grow, or what can he grow in a north-facing in-ground bed? And I've actually been to his place before, and what he's talking about is it's on the north side of the house. I mean, it's on the north side of a
So
big house.
it's shade.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on that?
Not much.
Yeah.
That's my thought. So this is a good question because new gardeners too, talking about like what's barriers to people, like gardens really need 8 hours of sun hitting the space. Maybe 6 hours if it's 6 hours of the afternoon southern sun hitting it, but anything less than 6 makes it difficult. You can squeeze in some lettuces and leafy greens sometimes, some radishes, but in a shady area, you're probably talking more about trying to go to edible flowers like ferns. You can eat fern fronds of certain varieties. Daylilies need sun, but for an example, not lilies. Lilies are poisonous, but daylilies, some of my favorite flowers to eat. So you can switch over sometimes to edible flowers in these areas. But if you're not getting, let's just say 6 to 8 hours of solid sun coming in, it really is difficult to grow anything. For garden wise, edible wise, like that.
Yes, yes, I totally agree with that. And that's what I tell people when they start thinking about gardening. I'm like, okay, well, you have to look where the sun is because the only real energy source for the plant is the sunlight.
Yeah.
And on the north side, very little. That's the first I've thought about ferns, though. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Ferns, I would say, potentially ginger if you wanted to grow it because it can take. I mean, I've got it in. It only gets 2 or 3 hours of direct sun. And then the rest is full shade all day, and it grows really well, better than the ginger that is in full sun, actually. So that's
Yeah,
one
I
of the
learned
few
that the hard way
things.
with ginger. I mean, ginger, I started with giving it 8 or 10 hours, and it started fine, but come midsummer, it just got bleached and baked. So now
Yes.
I have it actually wedged into my blueberry patch where the blueberries shade it, and it does so much better in a shady area. And then I have another batch of ramps and ginger that does better with maybe 4 hours or 6 hours of sun.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we're coming to a close here, Gary. So we appreciate this so much. Is there some things? What would be some parting advice to people who are just starting growing this year?
So thanks for having me. I had a good time. Anytime you want to talk about gardening, we can. What I think we went through 90 minutes, and it seems like it's been 20 minutes.
Mm.
Parting advice is not to start bigger than you need to, and it can just be one bed, 4 foot by 8 feet. Could be a 4 foot by 4 foot space. Could be just cardboard down or removing the grass. Put in 4 holes. Put in a tomato plant, some pepper plants. Just get your feet wet and get the experience, because if you love it, very quickly you're going to go from 4 beds or 1 4-foot bed to like 4 to 6 to 8, and it's going to expand and it's going to grow. And you're better off not overdoing it, because everything looks cute as a tiny little plant, but then come the season, they're big, and then you're all going to have. And probably my biggest parting advice is you are not at fault for insects and diseases coming into your garden. I hear gardeners say, I never get any of this. And that's probably because they're in an area where they don't have it. So all of my garden space didn't have fungus issues, didn't have insects. They know where to come in. So you're also going to have to learn how to deal with them. So by starting with fewer plants and a smaller garden, you can kind of get your feet wet, learn about the insects that come in, the diseases that come in. And then probably finally, when you do have a pest arrive or you do have an insect or a disease problem arrive, write it down in your notebook, because the best way to treat it is preventatively, 2 weeks, 3 weeks before the problem arrives. So you want to learn what the insect is or what the disease is, and then you would start spraying 2 or 3 weeks before they show up in your area. And this will help keep them, under control. And then the ultimate goal with pest and disease is to not eliminate the problem. That'd be great if we could, but just manage down the damage so you still get a great harvest.
Mm-hmm. I like that very much. That's a great philosophy. And just real quick, then I guess I want to ask your opinion. What is your approach on like the top 3 things that I get the top issues that people have? Blossom
Okay.
end rot and powdery mildew and aphids or other insects. Really, what would be your approach for those?
So blossom end rot usually happens more in containers, and that's usually a function of the root system drying out. So you can add in like Epsom salt or calcium, and that helps a little bit, but it's usually not a nutritional issue. It's usually a watering issue.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the lack or the inconsistent watering that causes blossom end rot. Roma tomatoes tend to get blossom end rot more, even when in the garden and your other plants do. So mulching and regular watering really can resolve blossom end rot. You can always add down some lime to know calcium is there, but that's usually not the issue. Powdery mildew comes in pretty quickly, and I know that it starts end of July, first 2 weeks of August here. What I do is, and I spray, and it keeps it under control. But my advice is to keep planting zucchini and cucumbers through the season: May, June, July, August. They mature really quickly, and you'll plant through the cycle of pests and disease. And you're not spending all this time trying to save a dying plant that's been beat up by pest or disease. So when I put in, squash sometimes August 15th, and I have a longer season here, I get beautiful squash and cucumber into the end of September, beginning of October, or, planting at the end of July, depending on what's going on. So kind of keep planting through the disease cycles. Aphids and insects.
Flea beetles.
Flea beetles. All right. So so this is where I use Sawdust, which I know people are going to flip out.
Ooh.
So
heavy artillery
attack my eggplant like crazy. And I've tried spinosad, I've tried neem oil, I've tried diatomaceous earth. It doesn't work. So I put the Sawdust on the outer lower leaves at night, put a bag over it, let the beetles do their thing, and it kills them off. And I might have to do it again in 10 days. And the reason I do that is so that the dust isn't blowing around to the flowers. In the morning, I wash it off. But that works for the flea beetles. They are just voracious. I'm having a hard time treating them. I won't be able to get eggplant or tomatillos. Tomatillos I do because it grows crazy. But the eggplant I definitely can't get. So I do use, the chemical dust in there. And that's why I say I'm 90% organic. Again, you could try spinosad dust. You can try diatomaceous earth. But it didn't work.
Yeah. And, I tell that to people too, that if it's either you're not going to get a harvest or you got to use a chemical, then the choice is clear. I mean, if you're just going to have totally decimated plants and you've tried so many other things, then the choice is clear, Yeah. So that's a very level-headed approach. And
I think so. I try not to, but sometimes you got to do it.
Yeah.
Just don't throw the chemical dust everywhere throughout the garden. You don't need that.
Right. Joyce Pendleton says, "Thank you, Gary. I've learned so much from you over the last decade."
Appreciate it, Joyce.
So, yep. And then one more piece. Drew says, "Make a short on that system of doing probably the sprinkling and putting the bag over it." Yeah. Make a video on that.
I probably do. I have like 2,000 videos now. YouTube's not great at letting you search or kind of
right
them, so
they're terrible with organization. So before we go, let people know where they can find you. Do you got, I know you got books, I know you got what do you got, courses or something? Do you got several channels or is it
my main channel is the Rusted Garden Homestead, and it's RUSTED. Made a mistake of calling it Rusted Garden. A lot of people think it's rustic, so it's the Rusted Garden. I also have another channel, My First Vegetable Garden, which I try and keep up, but I've been lacking on that. So the main channel is the Rusted Garden. And then I do have 2 books. The one back there, Growing an Edible Landscape.
Yep. Let us know where we can find that.
This is my first book.
Nice.
And it has a lot of what I talk about, same principles and philosophy. The story about my grandfather is what opens it up and stuff like that. And then I'm on Instagram under the Rusted Garden, but mostly I'm really focused on YouTube. I have a seed and garden shop, therustedgarden.com. Tomato seeds, pepper seeds, $1.75 a pack. All other seeds are $1.50 a pack. Try and keep it, inexpensive. But those are the main things. And then mostly for channel wise, I just do stuff in real time. So every year I kind of repeat what I'm doing. This year I'm trying to blend a show together, which is like a 30-40 minute video with more face-to-face time because people got tired of my point of view, POV. Kind of
yeah. Your videos are like that, where it's just your hands and things.
Yeah, just point of view. So I'm adding in the longer format, more conversational videos, which I actually enjoy. It's all because of the iPhone too. Like because I'm a one-man show, having to set up the tripod and move this camera around was it was a pain. But now with the iPhone, I can just, talk right into it. It's great. So it's changing how things work for me. So, that's it. That's pretty much the Rusted Garden.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much for being on, Gary. We appreciate it, man. This has been a great talk, and hope we can do it again sometimes.
Sure. I had a great time. Take care,
All
everybody.
right. Thanks. Okay, guys, that was awesome, huh? I mean, the first words that come to mind, or the first thoughts, are like practical and level-headed. That's the way it all. No hard and fast, lines about, oh, I never can do this or only can do that. He's all about, well, hey, what works for you is what works, and that is going to that's going to get the most people gardening. More so than just being really definitive for or against another thing. Yeah, so I really like that. I like his philosophy, and you guys know where you can find him. So Nancy Dewald, thank you very much for the $10 donation. I appreciate that. Thank you guys so much for the contributions with the comments during the whole broadcast. It was awesome. Appreciate you guys being here. Tradesman says, Gary is the man. I'm subscribing to your channel because you had him on. Oh, well, nice. I'm glad that you're here. Glad you're here. Yes. I'm glad that he agreed that we could be to do it. I've emailed a lot of guys, and a lot of them are just apparently too busy, to even respond. So, but I also know when you're a content creator, you get inundated with emails. I mean, flooded with the stuff. So it's understandable. It's not a problem. So okay, guys. Well, we are going to be right here next week. It's going to be me by myself again for the live stream, and then the following week we're going to have on David the Good, which that's going to be probably a great interview as well. David the Good will be on, and then we will be having Matt from Shooting the Soil on in a few weeks after that. So you guys can stay tuned. We don't have any more lined up after that. So let us know if you want someone else to be on the show. So put the bug out to them. All right. Let them know if you want them to be on the show, let them know. Okay. That would be great. And so, because like I said, it's hard to get a hold of a lot of these guys. And so we will try our best, but if we want someone on, just let's get it happening. Isaiah Waltz has a question, says, what's your view on polyculture for pest? You talk about growing multiple different plants at the same time in the same place. That is exactly what I do. Definitely. Pretty much any home garden, is going to be like that. It's not going to be where they're talking about crops and monoculture and stuff is like long row gardening or like industrial ag gardening, where there's lots of space of one plant. But in a backyard garden, because you've got 6 feet of one plant before you have another plant, that's not really monoculture. That's not unpolyculture, in my opinion and experience. So you're not really going to have issues with that. So don't be afraid to go ahead and plant a nice block of certain things. You will see this year, now that we've got beds, everything is so much more well-defined. Everything is, the real estate seems like it has increased dramatically. And so we can define like what goes here, what portion of what bed goes here. It's already really interesting. We got the arugula planted yesterday. We got several things planted, but man, guys, we've got a 22-degree night followed by a 23-degree night coming. So we're going to be building a little hoop house today. In fact, the Camille and Tegan are coming over, and we're about to build us a hoop house. But guys, what do you think? So we're gonna have like some merch of some kind, but this is my hat, that I like, and we're gonna get some patches. We're gonna have like what do you think? It's gonna be like a Garden Like a Viking hat, like that. Yes, garden hat. So that's gonna look pretty good, huh? All right, guys. Well, check out gardenlikeaviking.com. If you guys still want some of that fertilizer, you can get it. But remember, the price is definitely going up. I mean, there's no doubt. Now that I'm seeing how it's all working and I'm getting the bills for everything and everything's working, and the price is going to have to go up. So, but for the next like 3 to 5 days, we'll just leave it at the same price that it was. And so that's what that is. Okay. And let's see here. Yes. Big West says, I was saying to Karen, Nate needs hoop houses on those beds. Yeah, we're going to be putting the hoop houses on there for the next couple of days. But you'll see, we actually got one from Bootstrap Farmer, which is mega heavy duty. But we're going to use it for seed starting and all different kinds of stuff. So I got lots of thoughts about how we're going to utilize that, because it's much more than just a little hoop house. It's like heavy duty. It's amazing, actually. And so you guys will see that we will be able to use it for seed starting in the upcoming. Yeah. So where is who gardening from? We are in zone 5/6, Northern Indiana. And gardener Gary was in zone 7, I think, Maryland. Yes. Ooh, yeah. Pilar says tank tops, not just shirts. Oh, yeah. Tank tops. I'm going to be getting some tank tops that are this color. This is my favorite color. And we will put the Viking logo right on the center. We'll put the Viking logo right on the center like that. And we will do, so we'll have hats. We'll have tank tops, maybe some t-shirts. But I prefer tank tops anyways. Maybe some cups of some kind. That's what we're going to be doing. So Leland, $2. Thank you very much for the contribution, my friend. I appreciate that. Guys, make sure that you take a second to give the thumbs up, okay? Because we want to make sure that plenty of people see this, all the good information, okay? So let's see here. Lita Knows says, tried ordering the fertilizer. When I press payment, no reaction. Tried 3 separate times. I think one of them went through. I will have to double check, but it may be because you didn't fill out every field. Guys, you have to fill out. You have to even put on your phone number. Okay, I know you don't like to do that, but it's a heavy, bulky shipment, and you want to put your phone number on. They require it, and so if you don't, then it won't go through, because it's a heavy, bulky shipment. And if they have issues, then they need to call somebody and be like, hey, where do you want this heavy package? I got a pickup yesterday for the first time, because I was taking them to the FedEx shop, but now they're coming to the business and picking them up. And the guy got out of there and he looked at it and was like, oh, and he just saw a huge pile of buckets, 40-pound buckets each. And he has to pick up and load. He has to load all of those. So I'm like, hey, but that's your job, right? You're a delivery guy, or that's what you do, right? So I couldn't feel too bad about it. Yes. And so I found out that James Prigioni has because someone says tradesman. So I found out that James Prigioni has a fertilizer as well. But guys, it is for 4 pounds. It is $65. Okay. That would be $650 for a 40-pound bucket of it. Okay. I'm currently giving them away at $220. So, but that's not going to be for long. So it's so fun getting into all of this, learning as I'm going, getting into the business aspect of that kind of thing. This is my first product that I've ever made, and just learning so much about the website creation. I did all of it myself. And so learning about the website creation, learning about how to do shipping, learning about customer service, learning about email groups and automations and all that stuff, all while having a massive garden and other garden projects around. So it's all happening. It's all awesome. The season is coming. It's going to be a great season. Absolutely. So, this is good. So Beck says, doing imaginary cartwheels because I received my Viking nutrients. The pay button issue happened to me too, and I got out and went back in and it worked. Okay, wonderful. Yes, I remember shipping yours just the other day. So yeah, guys, if you want to see James Prigioni on the show, then obviously you're going to have to leave some comments. So on his newest video, as soon as he releases it, say something. Hey, Garden Like a Viking wants you to be on his show, or you should be on the Garden Like a Viking show. And then I will also email him. And one of those ways will get through to him. But like I said, he probably gets 75 emails a day about just random, business opportunities and stuff like that. So, and he probably just has them like me, just piling up, and you can only get to a few, so. Okay. So, well, that's pretty much it, guys. So, we will see you next time. All right. So thank you very much for being here and for giving the contribution of the energy and the questions and everything. And we will see you guys next week. The Thrive Tribe, though, we're not going to be doing our Sunday thing tomorrow. Sorry, it's because we are going to Jerry the Beef Farmers. He is also an artist, and so he has an art show that the last day is tomorrow. And so me, my mom, Pete, and who's my stepdad, and Camille and Tegan, we're all getting in the car and we're driving all the way down there. We're about to go see him. We're about to tour the farm, see some newborn calves. And this is where we get our beef, 100% grass-fed, grass-finished. So maybe I'll do like some Instagram stories probably while I'm there. But guys, the art show, super cool. It's going to be super cool. There's a piece in there that I'm really looking forward to seeing in person. And I will show you guys. I'll make a post of me standing next to it. Okay. So it's just, and you'll see what I mean. You'll see why it's so dear to me. So, okay. And we'll see everybody next time.